Do we know when that change is happening?
Yeah.
Oh, so I guess this is like the last one I need to record then. Well, Jackson in person, but maybe can we just? Are they good at Latin or can? Second period kids. I accidentally didn't record until we got through this whole sentence, which took us like an insane amount of time. But there's kind of a lot going on. That is the answer, as you can see. Just be aware that this qualm was trying to trip us up and make us think it was a relative pronoun, the accusative singular feminine one, but it wasn't. It was just how, and they did that on purpose. The actual relative pronoun is quos, which is referring back to the little books in the main clause, meaning the little books is the antecedent, as you can see labeled here. Please feel free to pause to linger on this for a bit longer. Who can read number 2? Alyssa, thank you. Good. Okay, I really like this sentence. There's a lot of kind of extra words in here that I don't want you to get tripped up on that the 2.5 kids might be more used to. Don't freak out about itakwe 1.5 kids. It just means like and so or and also. It's like a deluxe version of et, basically. Don't get tripped up on out. Out by itself is going to be or, but if there's 2 of them like this, it's going to be like either ... or ... So that's what out is. Clementia, mercy, copia, troops. We see copia a good bit. And telego is to understand. Neglego is to neglect. That's easy. So yeah, and then I'll have dodare pop up in a second because this is like a weird looking version of dodare that takes a little while to get used to. Does anyone want to translate? Kim?
And so those troops of the supply, the little teachers,
good. And can you read up to like the end of the relative clause again? Like you don't have to read the whole second part, but just like kind of the beginning. I want to hear it again. What's the very first part? That's good. But itakwe emilia harum copiarum. Sorry. What do you do with that? And so those troops are the supply. So yeah, we can fix that. That's really the only thing I think we need to fix. The rest of it you did pretty good. But so how can we make those first 3 words sound better? Since I don't even count itakwe as a real word. If you want to write it down, it is a conjunction to put in the bottom section. How do we do milia harum? So I've decided that harum and I guess harum, the masculine version, those are the versions of Hekai that look furthest from Hekai, where it's like most easy to look at them and think that they're not Hekai, especially harum. When you think about it, that looks like ora orai, which is our. But anyway, this is like it does have a genitive feminine plural ending. It's just like there's no C, the C that shows up in Hekai, those C's don't show up in the plurals. That's what makes, I think, the plurals of Hekai kind of weird. But so, and this milia is not a million. It's anyone, 1,000. We talked about that. Yeah, there's like a weird reason for it. Like it's Italians' faults technically. There's that weird disparity where milia is 1,000. But so thousands, harum copiarum. So both harum and copiarum are genitive. So thousands, but not the troops, but of these troops. Yeah, because we do need to acknowledge the guys of these troops. And so thousands of these troops. And then the comma is our friend here because it makes it clear that we're entering our relative clause, right? When we have a comma and a version of quiquad, it's just like it's like obvious. It's like, okay, we're entering this like side part where you need to be like, okay, I'm entering into this like weird subordinate clause, which is a fancy way of saying it's going to have its own verb and subject and all this other stuff. So its verb is at the end of it. Do y'all have the comma right here? Yeah. Okay. So this one makes it very clear that this is set off. Yeah, do you have questions? No. Do you want to translate the relative ones? Yeah. Yes, very good. So when you see quibus here, I could flip back to the quiquad. I need to start putting on the slides, and I'll put it on the board actually for next week for quiquad. The quibus is either the ablative or dative plural, and dodare here is from or dedit. You might not be able to tell, especially if you're 1.5, because this is not something I'd expect you to know. that is the really weird-looking perfect version of dodare. So hopefully I remember dodare, that verb from chapter 1 that means to give. But dedi is the first-person singular perfect form of it. That would, like dedi would mean I gave, but this is dedit, so it's like Caesar gave. And hopefully you can see that Caesar must be the subject of this. That's his name in the nominative. That's how we would say his name if he's the subject. So he's a subject of this relative clause. An important thing to know is like when you inside of a relative clause, it's going to have its own subject, verb, and all that stuff. Like you can almost disregard what's going on outside of it. The only link between the relative clause and the main clause is the relationship between the relative pronoun and the antecedent, which in this case is what, to be clear? It's like actually slightly vague. What is the antecedent of quotas? To whom? Who is the whom? Not Caesar. Yeah, so it's like both like the troops. Yeah, I think it would be like copiarum. Obviously, like Aemilia, Harum, copiarum, they kind of all go together, even though they're different cases. But yeah, we're talking about the troops that we just mentioned in the first part of the sentence. Remember, the antecedent is outside of the relative clause. It's in the main clause. So we haven't finished the main clause. We just have the beginning of the main clause, and it's interrupted by the relative clause here. So which Caesar gave, because it's perfect, we don't want to say give. Clementium, that's the direct object of the relative clause. So, okay, so I think I fix it eventually. It's actually probably just a touch better to say to whom. I was actually surprised by this. I typed this out and I was like, well, I guess which does work fine, but to whom has a little more specificity to it. So, and so thousands of these troops, which, or that, honestly. But yeah, like when it is a person, you should probably try to use whom, and in this case, it'd be to whom. Well, I guess still you could just say whom and drop the to, and it's kind of clear because of the way it flows. So which Caesar gave clemency. You could say which Caesar gave clemency to. There's a couple places you could put the word to, the preposition to in. Either what? Either or. I mean, I think Cami had this, but did anybody else want to share this last part? So then we re-enter the main clause, and it's like, oh, here's the actual verb of the main clause. So what about these troops, these thousands of troops? They either neglect officia, probably gloss. What's officia, anyone? Duties, or, and then this gets weird, we'll talk about ea, or they non-intelligent, they do not understand. Let's just use them for ea. And did you say something, Alyssa? This one is, there's kind of a lot going on. Or they, and I think intelligence, or it is, it's just present tense, so the don't, do not, no, don't is fine, yeah. Oh, sorry, let me click all the way through. Yeah, do not, or don't. You can contract it if you want, that's fine. Oh yeah, look, I add to whom. To whom technically a touch better. So once you know out, out is either or, that's all easy. But this ea is annoying. This ea is a third person personal pronoun. It is this neuter accusative. I shouldn't do that. I'm not right. It could have been nominative, but like we have a subject at this point, so we don't think it's our neuter plural nominative. It's probably the accusative one. And so sometimes you would probably translate that as like maybe it, but it is plural, so then it makes sense. And I guess when it's ancient Rome, all the troops would have been dudes. So I'm kind of surprised they didn't. Oh no, I know why. We're not talking about the troops. It's referring back to officia, which is from, and I should gloss this in case I don't remember, which is neuter. Officium. So it's like they had to do that because it's agreeing with officia. That almost in a weird way feels like a relative clause within the main clause. But officium, officii means like greedy. Ea. That's what I'm trying to explain. It's kind of hard. It doesn't mean just one thing. But actually, pretty commonly, it would be them. Yeah. So if we look at its buddies, it's like masculine buddy is eos. That would be them too, because in English, we don't gender plural pronouns. We only gender singular pronouns. Like the singular version is eum. Eum is him. Eom is her. But eos, eos, and ea, all those could really be is them, or maybe, I guess not it, because they're plural. So I think they would just always be them. So y'all gloss that. If you want to gloss that, that's cool. Ea. Them. Oh, the only issue is that it could be nominative, so you need to put they if nominative, them if accusative. Yeah, I was just talking about last class about how weird it continues to always be that second and third declension, nominative plural, and accusative plural, get these nasty, annoying a endings because as of chapter 2, we get trained to look at an A ending and at least initially think it could be first singular nominative feminine. So that's always annoying, and it really stops getting annoying. There's also ambiguity. It's like, is it nom or accusative? But usually that's pretty clear. But yeah, the A is referring to that same A that shows up for neuter, second, third declension, nominative, plural. The stem of these third-person personal pronouns is basically always just the letter E. It's just a single letter stem. The one exception is like he is just is. That's a horrible word. Obviously, we know this means something totally different in English. What were the Romans thinking? And I guess id. But all the other ones, the same as like E, and then anything that comes after it does correspond to something we know from our like normal noun endings. All right, and quibus is the relative clause. We already talked about some. I'm underlining the relative clause. So there it is. Yeah, the one thing you need to know that if I picked this one, I would actually underline quibus and say antecedent of quibus. And I remember how this went last year, at least with the kids a year older than y'all. A lot of them, they did like either never understood what I meant by antecedent, or, but the answer would be I would accept milia or copiarum, or even if you just write troops, like if you write the English version of it. So yeah, I'll underline quibus and say antecedent, and you'll put troops, or maybe milia if you, and I think like technically grammatically it's milia, but like it's functionally all of milia harum copiarum. Any questiones? I would also, let's see, I might ask about the tense of dedit, because y'all, that is very common. It doesn't look anything like godare, but that's why like I need y'all to know that it is. The first, I don't get caught off guard by it. It's perfect. The normal perfect third singular. Officiant AF, I was being mean. I might ask the case. They're accusatives. They're accusative plural. It was really mean and hard. I'd ask the gender and say neuter. I don't do that. Any questions? One. I have thousands of slides. Oh yeah, look, it says antecedents, question mark, plural. I have thousands of slides prepared for the rest of Achilles. But guys, you've been great this week. If we get through this thing, we can probably, yeah, we can stop. Maybe I'll force you guys to at least look at one Quizlet deck for like chapter 16 or something. Or just, anyway, whatever. Okay, who can read this one? Why is Shardy still talking? Oh, maybe that whole class is done, so he's just doing normal class now. Maybe. So Centum ex viris quibus cum, which we need to talk about, transmaria difficilia navigavaras ad urbem veniebant. Before we even get into this thing, I'm expecting a relative clause because that's what the chapter is about. Where would you say, Sarah, the relative clause begins? So like, let's like work it out now, so that's just like one less thing for us to worry about. What word begins the relative clause? And it is kind of extra hard on this one compared to the first two. It's not a trick like in number one with quam, but it's still, there's something weird happening. Yeah, that's where it starts. Where do you think it ends, Chloe? So like, let's add a comma ourselves. So our editors are being less nice than they were on the last sentence. They didn't give us commas, so like make it very clear. But it starts with quibus cum. What do you think it goes to, Chloe? There's a trick to this. Kind of hard though. Well, I'm sure you'll arrive at it, but anyone, what do y'all think? Out loud? Relative clauses basically terminate, meaning end, with a what? Yeah, probably a verb. So maybe you're just like it's not jumping out to you out of the verb, but navigavaras is a verb. And so it must be like quibus cum. So this is a longer one. This is a slightly longer relative clause than the first two. So let's just do the main clause first. Centum ex viris, what is that, anyone? What does centum mean, Sadie? What do you think? Not 1,000. A cent is one blanketh of $1. No, that was a horrible way to put it. But Daniels,
100.
100. So let's review numbers after this one more time, just for because 1.5 can still have barely have the time. But yeah, centum is 100. Think of a century, it's 100 years. Think of a cent, which is a 1/100th of $1, and that's about it. But like 100 what? 100. Not men. What is veer? Veer is the opposite of feminates.
Oh, like something.
Yeah, so 100 of the men is a good way to do this. If we take it very literally in the way we first understood X, when we first met X, it was like from or from out of. So very literally, it's like 100 from the men, which like that does make sense, but that doesn't sound like natural in English. So you can just say 100 men if you want to. But in this context where a number and then an ablative is sandwiching an X, you treat that X as of actually, or you usually are going to translate it as of, or you just disregard it entirely and say 100 men. 100 men or 100 of the men. Either way, don't quite say 100 from the men because that's a little weird. So 100 men or of the men. Let's come back to the relative clause. Let's come back. What do? They viniebat ad urbem. Bailey, vinio is to come. So how would you put viniebat ad urbem? Perfect. We're coming to the city. Came to the city is okay, but we're coming actually probably sounds more correct here. I don't think I'll click through because I think I do get in the relative clause on my next slide. But so that's what it'll be. And now let's see how it gets disrupted. Quibus cum. So this is the one thing I want to talk about, and this note explains it very long-windedly. Cum can attach itself to the end, almost like a suffix of any ablative pronoun. It'll always be an ablative version because cum takes an ablative. But this is the same as if you just had cum separate from quibus, but they're just kind of like smushed together. And then so that tells us that quibus is definitely ablative here, not dative, which is kind of nice. And so what would we translate quibus cum as anyway? 100 of the men. Yeah. So remember these quick quads is usually something like which, that, or who. In this case, there's a cum added. So translate the cum and how do you think we should take this relative clause specifically? Which, whom, that? Not sure, anyone? Oh. Maybe like with whom, right? 100 of the men with whom, and then let's like, well, what is the actual verb of this? Oh, navigavaros. What person is navigavaros, Sarah? Is it first, second, or third person? Navigavaros. This is from navigo, navigare, navigavi. I'm sorry? Think of OST mustus int. 1, 2. Yeah, so Sadie, since it's second person, is our subject's pronoun I, you, or like an it? Since the verb is second person, is our subject pronoun for, huh? Maria is the oceans, plural, or the seas. So Sadie, first person singular verbs end in O or sometimes M, and it's I would be the subject pronoun, but second person, it's going to be, you said and? So I'm looking for an English pronoun. Oh, Parker, you. Yeah. So guys, remember, and 1.5 kids, if you want to discuss this real quick, because you're like, wait, because you forced me to go through 5 chapters in the course of a month, I actually lost the basic 101 stuff, Sadie, like OST must just send. But you gotta have those basics to be able to like hang with these chapters. So OST 1, 2, 3, I, you, it. You need to be able to like rattle off. Like, are y'all talking about this right now, or? I'm almost exclusively talking to Sadie right now, so that's straight up insane that you're like talking to Sarah when I'm mostly stopping the entire class to explain something to you. About another, what? Huh? What? What is this? This is Latin class. Do you know where you are? Are you good? This is Latin. Okay, 100 of the men with whom? So you, what tense is it, Adrian? Navigavaras. Is he fully passed out? I think so. Thank God Adrian's going to be here sending a good example. Huh? Okay. Adrian or Andrew. It's from Navigo, Navigare, Navigavi. I'm seeing this B, so I'm thinking it's one of the perfects. Is it perfect, blue perfect, or future perfect? We never see future perfect. That VERA thing makes me think what? What does it make me think? The Caden? So what helping verb should we use? Like have or have? It's actually had, and that's really hard to know. Let's like forget about ever using have, right? We realize we can always translate perfect as just verb. So let's always just think that pluperfect needs a helping verb and it's had. So if you see an ERA for given verb, probably flu and you want to use had. So 100 of the men with whom you had sailed Transmaria Difficilia, Lucy? Yeah, across difficult seas. Maria Difficilia. I can't say that word in a way that sounds like real Latin. Those are accusative because trans takes an accusative. Ad urban when bont. So 100 of them. Now we get back to the main clause, right? We were disrupted. We had to do a totally grammatically separate relative clause, basically. The only link between them is that quibus cum's antecedent is probably pretty clearly viris. Just like last sentence, it's kind of like both Pinson and Weir's. Say Weir's. And then now we can finish up. We already did, right? We did the main clause. So they came to the city. They came to the city. Any questions, concerns, comments? Did we clear up Sarah's history question? Okay, yeah, I'll freeze it. I mean, that's such a wild idea that you're being pushed through a Latin textbook, not because you really wanted to, but then that you would go on to try to do history homework in said class. I know, yeah. I mean, you're really good at Latin. It's just, yeah. I don't know how you're good at Latin because you always seem a little distracted. But I mean, good for you that you make it work. Let me find. Let's make sure we know our numbers. And I'm gonna be quizzing the 1.5 kids, not to leave you 2.5 kids out. But I think y'all know that because once you know the numbers, you know them forever. All right. And guys, I like either 2 or 3. I'm not going to pick 1 on the quiz on Tuesday because I don't like it as much. It tried to trick us. It was deceptive. And so I shall not pick it. Are we good? Okay. So let's see. So Unis is 1, Primus is first. I'm just going to go around in the sequence of 1.5 kids. Sorry, 2.5. But be checking to see if you know it too. Alyssa, what do you think? Can you give me what? So this is first. This is 1, and this is first. Do you know 2 and second? Duo and not. It actually doesn't look like duo. For some reason, the first 2 numbers there, we call it the ordinal number, doesn't look anything like the cardinal, but that's like English, right? The word first looks nothing like the word 1, and the word second doesn't look anything like the number 2. So the ordinal anyone is for 2. How do we say something second? It's and anybody can say it. Say it, like? Yes, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Secundus, right? Secundus. Sadie, can you remember 3? Do you know what it starts with? Oh yeah. Trey. Yeah, I don't know. Trey is just I don't like. So I leave off the S. I pretend like it's a French word. And then and sometimes it'll look like tria, okay? Because 3 is actually the only other number for 2, 1, and 1,000 that decline a little bit. So it might look like tria if it's going with a neuter thing, but hopefully you would still think it looks like 3. So we get words like the prefix tri and tria from it. What is third? Third's kind of weird. Sadie or Sarah. So like Trey or tria is 3. How do we say third? Ordinal. It actually does look a lot closer to its cardinal version, unlike Secundus and Duo here. Bruce Timm's art for the 90s Batman stuff is so sick. I'm not saying these pictures are really good, but I love his character designs. Third? No? Anyone? Caden? Yeah? Tertius. And so its ending will change however it needs to be. And look at these like slightly washed out designs on the original generation Pokemon game. Mwah! Gorgeous. What is 4, Caden? Cardinal and or ordinal. What's with the kid? Yeah, it's quatuor. It's kind of like a weird, awkward ending. How do we say fourth? It's anyone? I love. Yeah, it's like quartus. Makes me think of it just like a quart. And again, it can have any kind of ending. It needs to adjective style to go with whatever it's going with. Whereas quatuor will never change. The cardinal will never change. The ordinal, most of the ordinals, except for what am I saying? Most of the cardinals will never change. But ordinals can always change their ending to agree in case I'm gender. 5. 5 is actually kind of weird. Brayden, anything 5? 5 guys. Starts with a Q. You, Alyssa? Quinque. I don't get quinque because it looks like it's got it has the que at the end that makes me think like of the and enclitic suffix thing we have. And then quintus, that's a super easy ordinal. I hate babies. What is so 6 is basically just 6 pronounced weird, and the ordinal is sextus. Who can think of 7? I guess I'm technically supposed to ask like Braden or Adrian. Yeah, septum. Think of September, and then septimus. So some of the ordinal, you don't have to think about it. It's just like, how do we make it look like an adjective? We just added TUS, so there is a little more than just the just US. 1, 2, 3. 0. 0. Y'all know how the British people say 0? No, they say Z. Oh wait, that's also just how they say Z too. Maybe not 0. That's how they say the letter Z. Yeah, like they go through the alphabet A, B, C, D. They get to the end and they say Z.
What's so special about the letter Z? You never use the letter Z.
Yes.
When I studied abroad in England, and someone got me a book that said A to Z, or like England A to Z, London A to Z, or something. I don't know. So what is 8, Adrian? What sea creature has 8 lines? Yeah, so it's just octo. And then we make that ordinal by kind of adding a V. Sometimes you're adding like a V, or like in 6's case is like a T, US, or A, or UM, or whatever it needs to be. So octo, octavus. 9's not band, Alyssa. Yeah, November. So 7 to 10, think of the months. The months at the end of the calendar. So they are off by 2. So November. The ordinal for 9 is really weird. So anyone can. It's not novimus. What is the ordinal? Close. So that would sound like new. Close. Parker? So it's weird. So we're all getting something out of this. It's nonus, which looks more like our 9, I guess, because there's like a second in coming into the equation from somewhere. So that one's kind of weird. What is 10, Sadie? Yeah, decim. And how do you think you'd make that ordinal? Maybe like deci. Like just decimus, decima, decimum, whatever it needs to be. 11, Sarah. Can you think of that? Think of subtracting 1 from 10. So like decimus, and the rest of them are very formula. Well, kind of the rest of them. Decim and duodecim are kind of weird because it's like, oh, I'm sorry, not 1 from 10. 1 to 10, and then 2 plus 10. And then it's just like 3 plus 10, 4 plus 10, where for some reason 10 has an I in at the end. And then when it gets to 18, then it's like 2 from 20. The Ginty is the one that there's no way to remember that well. Whereas like almost all of these have something that can help us remember it in English. The Ginty got nothing. So for 18 and 19, we take 2 from 20 or 1 from 20. All right, guys. Incredible class. Last Latin class of the week. Maybe we should always have 3-day Latin weeks because, I don't know. It gives me more energy, the idea of a 3-day weekend. Goodbye, second period kids. We're all looking forward to some of you joining. Jackson and Christian. Don't worry though, you're fine. You're gonna be computer kids. It may be Avery is too. Who knows? It's gonna be great. Goodbye. 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 All right.